Stream, everybody. I am, in fact, broadcasting from my fifth wheel. I'm broadcasting from my fifth wheel, and I'm using Starlink. So if there's any interruptions or any lagginess, or if it's too loud, just let me know, because I am running my laptop here at like full RPMs. The fans are, and so yeah, we're just working with a mobile setup. But I think it's been going so far. I've done a few live streams here. I've done a few live streams with this setup, and so far so good. So just checking the sound and checking the video quality. I just want to make sure that everyone says that it is good before we continue. As people are filing in, I do want to encourage you guys to hit the like button and subscribe. It does really help grow the channel and help push these live streams out and the channel out further, so more people can actually be notified of what the heck is going on here in Canada. We got quite a few things. People are saying all good. People are saying all good. All right. All right. Well, that's good news then. Sweet. Yeah. So we got quite a few things to cover today. We've got Justin Trudeau actually breaks his silence on when he met with Trump in Mar-a-Lago. So we heard Trump's side of things. Then now we get to hear Justin Trudeau's side of things. We have Ottawa intercepted a radio call from a Chinese submarine vessel. So that's kind of interesting. We have an update on the wildfires, and we also have some new announcements, new developments from the Liberal leadership race that just happened, new developments, breaking news 45 minutes to an hour ago. So lots of exciting things here to take a look at. I do want to encourage you guys to if you can, this is going to be a no nonsense live stream. We're just going to be taking look purely here at content. Stick around for the full thing if you can, or if you're watching the VOD, the replay afterwards, the video on demand. Just try to stick around for the full thing, because there's a lot to talk about. It's going to be very condensed into this live stream. I actually thought about taking this live stream and turning it into two separate videos. So there's going to be a lot. It's definitely going to be a bit of a power play live stream. But nonetheless, welcome back to the stream. Welcome back to the channel. Before we get into it, guys, I do want to encourage you to hit the like button and subscribe. I know I already said that, but I'm saying it again. And without further ado, let's get right into it, shall we? Starting off with the polls. Here we go. No updates yet, but you still got Pierre and the Conservatives at 236 projected seats, with a bottom line at 208. And Justin Trudeau and the Liberals, so I guess it's not Trudeau, but I guess it's the Liberals, excuse me, are at 35 projected seats. And there's been speculation on whether they're actually going up or down. I think that they're going to be going up, folks, with the announcement of a new leader in the coming weeks. They're definitely probably going to be going up. I don't think anyone can flatline the Liberal Party as bad as Justin Trudeau. And the NDP's trailing right behind. So it's going to be a race between who's the official opposition, whether it's Justin Trudeau or, I guess, the Liberals. I got to get out of that habit, eh? Whether it's the Liberals or the NDP Jagmeet Singh. But not to worry, because you still have 99% likely across the board for the Conservatives of winning the most seats and odds of a majority government. So things are still looking very fancy and good for Pierre. But what's not looking good is what's going on in LA, right, with all those fires. So we're going to take a look now at the latest update, because it's absolutely devastating. I mean, hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars worth of property has been just completely wiped out. So let's take a look here.
I am praying it doesn't, but based on the devastation, that is clear. It looks like a bomb, an atomic bomb dropped in these areas.
Los Angeles is facing a renewed threat of rapid wildfire spread, fueled by strong wind gusts today. The National Weather Service has extended its red flag warning until 6 p.m., urging residents to stay alert and be prepared to evacuate if necessary. The wildfires so far have claimed at least 10 lives and leveled at least 10,000 structures.
Holy smokes, man.
We found out through word of mouth yesterday, confirmed from our neighbors that hiked in, that our house was gone. I know that all of our neighbors had access to videos and photos, but when my husband left for work, he asked that none of us look at any of the photos and none of us come here until all 5 of us could be together for the first time. So I have not looked at any of the photos of our street or of our house. I can't describe it. What was it like? I really have no words for what I don't have any words for what it's like. Our free library is still open, and books are still here. But look in the.
Oh my God!
It's like on a strand, a thread.
It's definitely weird. I mean, I didn't really think it would be this bad. Like, I was at school, I saw the fire in person, and it didn't look that bad. So I thought it was like a free day off. I thought it was gonna be easy to contain. And then when I came home, after like an hour, it started getting worse and worse. I got scared and nervous, so I feel like it's just weird. It doesn't feel real.
Yeah, no doubt.
Random papers, and this one was right there on the front, just like this, sitting like this on the front porch. And it says what?
Make yourself at home.
And what's this last thing?
Enjoy the process and welcome home.
That is so crazy. A piece of paper with words still on it saying welcome home. I don't even know what book this is from.
It's just all the memories here. So walking in, it was extremely hard. I walked around the side, tried to just get in a little bit more, and I just became sick. I just couldn't even, it's hard. It is a nightmare. This is just, this isn't real. You never think it's gonna happen to you, and then it does.
You never think it's going to happen to you, and then it does, right? I mean, that's what Canada felt during the Jasper National Park wildfires. It's devastating, absolutely devastating. And this is something that was brought to the attention of people a long time ago. I mean, Joe Rogan, 6, 7, 8 months ago, was on his podcast talking about how LA was just a tinderbox waiting to go up in flames, and it was going to go right to the ocean. And there was nothing that anyone could do about it other than just maybe do like the burns to prevent this from happening, right? The pre-registered burns or whatever the heck those are called. Not to mention the fact that a lot of the fire hydrants were apparently not even working. Like, the firefighters went to use them and there was no water. So yeah, not very good. Not very good. Seems like Trump is inheriting a bit of a economic mess and natural disaster mess, or however you want to look at it. And, not a good way to start off the Trump presidency. But let me know down in the comments what you guys think about that. I've seen some people talking about like a direct energy weapon. I don't really know much about that. I know that's what people talked about with the Hawaii stuff that happened a while ago. But I mean, just no matter how you look at it, people's lives have been completely rerouted because of this, and it's absolutely devastating. Now we're going to take a look here at this very bizarre piece of news where Ottawa receives a radio call from a Chinese Navy vessel on mission in the South China Sea. Very strange, but here we go.
CTV News has been reporting all week from a Canadian warship in the South China Sea. HMCS Ottawa is there along with international partners to defend the rules-based maritime order. But China claims the crucial shipping lane as its own. CTV's Adrian Gobriel is embedded with the crew on board and joins us with more on the mission. Adrian.
Heather, HMCS Ottawa's deployment to the South China Sea has brought the Canadian frigate just west of the Spratly Islands. It's a contested region where for the last decade China has been building military bases on some of those islands and even on top of reefs. And as has been the norm in this region for the last number of days, a Chinese warship is shadowing the Royal Canadian Navy and even sent out this radio call today.
Canada warship 341. Canada warship 341. This is Chinese Navy warship.
A radio call from a Chinese frigate known as the Yancheng broadcast across the bridge inside HMCS Ottawa.
This is Chinese Navy warship 511 calling on channel 16. The sea is in poor condition.
The call asks for HMCS Ottawa's speed and direction to ensure the safety of both vessels. It's a seemingly friendly gesture, one that this Canadian Navy crew tell us they've never received before. The belief on HMCS Ottawa is that the Chinese Navy is aware that CTV News is on board documenting this deployment.
What?
The looming presence of China's Navy is expected. In the nearby Spratly Islands, China has built fully functioning airstrips and military bases. The Royal Canadian Navy is...
How can China... First of all, what does it matter? Like, CTV News being on board a vessel what does that matter with anything, whether China knows or doesn't know about that? Who cares? That's such a weird thing to say.
Is in the South China Sea taking part in Operation Horizon to promote safety and rules-based maritime order. Some fear China's militarization in these waters could give Beijing strategic leverage across the region.
It just changes the rules of international law and the rules of freedom of movement. What China is trying to do is rewrite the rule book, which then adversely affects, the sovereignty of Taiwan, the sovereignty of the Philippines.
Some military experts believe similarities can also be found in Russia's annexation of Crimea in 2014, which led to the invasion of Ukraine, and China's claims of ownership over the South China Sea.
China is watching to see how much they can get away with by using Russia as the proxy. The Chinese have this thing, they will wait for the time and opportunity, but their aspirations have not changed. We have to take them seriously.
It's important to note that this is also a vital shipping route, and underneath the sea floor, there's said to be 11 billion barrels of untapped oil.
Wow. Okay. So, I mean, that story seems a bit like a nothing burger. You're in the South China Sea. It's literally in the name. And they're like, hey, we see China vessels are on a mission. Yeah, I would hope so. I would think that they're doing their job. That's kind of weird. It's like, hey, we found planes at an airport in China. Chinese planes. Who would have thought? That's just, anyways, that's bizarre reporting. And I feel like those are a couple of minutes that we're never getting back. But anyways, speaking of time we're never getting back, Justin Trudeau finally breaks his silence on what happened with Trump in Mar-a-Lago. So from Trump's perspective, Trudeau said that Canada is on the brink of bankruptcy if America does not subsidize Canada by the tune of $200 billion every single year. That's what Trump said, that Trudeau said, he said, she said, blah, 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 right? You know how it goes. And that's kind of pathetic. If that's true, if that actually is the state of Canada, that $200 billion, that's a lot of money, don't get me wrong. But if $200 billion is the make or break for whether Canada goes into a recession or not, that is absolutely pathetic. Especially since we're running a $60 billion deficit quarterly. I mean, what the hell is going on? So that's what we heard from Trump's version. Now let's take a look at what Justin Trudeau has to say. So there's not yet been a video release, but it soon will be. It'll be aired on MSNBC, but we do have some quotes to take a look at. Trudeau, in a soon-to-be aired interview on MSNBC, said it was nice to reconnect with Trump at his Mar-a-Lago estate last year, despite the president's expressed desire, however legitimate it may be, to make Canada the 51st state. Which is nuts because he talks so much shit about Trump. And he says it was nice to reconnect with Trump. I mean, pick a side, Trudeau. Pick a side. Annexation actually sort of came up at one point, and then we started musing back and forth about this, Trudeau said. And I started to suggest, well, maybe there could be a trade for Vermont or California for certain parts. And he immediately decided that it was not funny anymore, and we moved on to a different conversation. So this isn't just out of the blue that he's doing this, but my focus has to be not on something that he's talking about that will not ever happen, but more on something that might well happen. In the interview, Trudeau maintained Canada's commitment to securing the border to thwart the movement of illegal migrants and fentanyl into the U.S. Trump has proposed a 25% tariff. So it did come up. And in fact, everything that Trudeau has said about that interview, none of it, not a single thing. Justin Trudeau has a real opportunity to debunk what Trump said that Trudeau said. And that's that Canada is on the brink of a recession. We're going to go bankrupt, tits up, absolute chaos for our economy if America doesn't subsidize us $200 billion every single year. Justin Trudeau obviously listened to what Trump said about the meeting, and he's had multiple instances, one on CNN and now with MSNBC, to debunk that. And he didn't do it on CNN, and he didn't do it right now. So that means that Canada is literally on the brink of bankruptcy because of $200 billion. That's how fragile our economy is. Guys, this is insane. We're a big country. We got 41 million people. The brink of a recession should be to the tune of like $5 trillion or 10 trillion, not 200 billion. It's absolutely insane. And it seems to be absolutely true. And that's the scariest part about it. So as much as we're like pro Pierre Poilievre and pro conservatives, I mean, Pierre is inheriting an absolute mess. And I mean, it feels like the whole thing's going to fall apart. It feels like we're going to go into a recession before he actually has the ability, before Pierre has the ability to make any changes to try and unfuck this. Sorry for my words, but seriously, this is a fucking disaster, man. An absolute disaster. Not just for our economy, but also for Justin Trudeau, which does make me smile. So let's take a look here. Trudeau exiting, poll finds loser Liberals deeper in the ditch. Canadians are in the mood to blame somebody for why they feel the way they do. The diagnosis is grim. If this was a doctor's office and the federal Liberals were the patient, they would be told to quickly get their affairs in order. I feel like they'd be told they've got 2 months to survive, basically, politically speaking. A fresh Abacus data poll, and these nose counters know their stuff. Pierre Poilievre's Conservatives widen their lead on the Liberals after Prime Minister Trudeau announces he'll leave when their party picks a new leader. And we now know when that is, right? That's going to be, I think they have to pick by, was it the 19th or the 20th or the 20-something? It's coming in a couple of weeks. They basically all bets are off for who can place a bid in the race to be the next leader of the Liberal Party, and then a party leader will be picked sometime early March. So we're like weeks, like 2 weeks away from the deadline being closed, and then they get to do their leadership race. And it's not looking good for some people. Dominic LeBlanc was entertaining with that idea. Mélanie Joly was flirting with that idea. And both of them, within the past couple of days, Mélanie Joly today announced that she is not running in the leadership race. And Dominic LeBlanc confirmed, I think it was yesterday or the day prior, that he is not running in the leadership race. So there's a couple other people that are still kind of in the air. And that's what we're going to be taking a look at right now. You've got Chrystia Clark. Apparently, her leadership bid just got killed live on television. Let's take a look at this.
Going to begin, though, with some developments on one of the big names that may be about to get into the Liberal leadership race, former British Columbia Premier Chrystia Clark. Now, one of the criticisms of Clark's potential leadership bid from other Liberals is that she joined the Conservatives to vote for Jean Charest in the leadership race won by Pierre Poilievre. Well, my colleague Catherine Cullen, the host of CBC's podcast The House, asked Clark about this today, and Catherine joins me now. Catherine, what did Chrystia Clark say when you asked her about this?
Yeah, David, the discussion really took a bit of an interesting turn here. And just to make sure folks are following along with us, Chrystia Clark has described herself for years as a lifelong federal Liberal. When she was Premier of British Columbia, yes, she was a BC Liberal, but just so everyone understands, the BC Liberals not affiliated with the federal Liberals. They were a bit of a different political beast, a bit more to the right. And in order to vote in the Conservative leadership race, you have to renounce any other membership. Right? You can't be a member of another party. So despite being lifelong, she couldn't have been a federal Liberal if she was voting in this race, where she very publicly endorsed Jean Charest. So I had questions about how long this period of her life lasted. Let's listen to our exchange. You have called yourself a lifelong Liberal, but you voted in the last federal Conservative leadership race. That would have required you to cancel your Liberal Party membership in order to join the Conservative Party. How long were you a member of the Conservative Party, Chrystia Clark?
Never.
But you voted in the race, did you not?
No, I didn't. And I never got a membership. And I never got a ballot. What I did, though,
I will say, Chrystia Clark, we reached out to the Conservative Party, who told us, in fact, that your membership was canceled.
Oh, well, why don't they come out and show my membership or my ballot? They never sent me any of those, although I wouldn't put it past them to manufacture one of them.
Wow. We're going to get to that, come out and show it in a second. But I also, in regards to this interview, David, she went on to say in the interview that she called the Conservative Party numerous times to ask where her ballot was. And I said, well, wouldn't you have to be a member in order to expect a ballot from them? I asked if she canceled her Liberal Party membership. She said no. Her team now says that she was in fact not a registered Liberal when she supported Jean Charest.
Okay, so just, all right. I'm a little, if people have been following the Chrystia Clark political saga may be confused because this does not align with what she has said repeatedly in the past.
So there was media reporting at the time. It's paraphrasing of her where she repeatedly says, I have my ballot, I'm excited to vote for Jean Charest, et cetera, et cetera. There is, of course, also tape of her at the time talking about her support of Jean Charest. So let's listen to a bit of that.
Even with all these examples of Justin Trudeau moving the federal Liberal Party to the left, it has got to be a big step for you to join the Conservatives. Why did you do it?
Because I think that we need a lead. There is only one leader who's running for office right now who is going to be able to unite the country, I think, and who's going to bring a moderation and a willingness to talk to the people with whom he disagrees, and that's Jean Charest. I'm joining the party so that I could support my friend Mr. Charest, and you know what I think he can bring to the national dialogue. I mean, I do think he'd be a devastating opponent for Mr. Trudeau.
Now, in that interview with me, David, she said, well, they should prove it. We reached out to the Conservative Party of Canada, who sent us an image of the proof of her membership purchase from their data management system. It seems to suggest that she was a Conservative Party member for over a year. They also sent a little statement along in which they refer to Clark's kickoff to her leadership campaign, saying it is about misleading not just Liberals, but Canadians.
I mean, I've got a Canadian Press article here from August 11th, 2022. Speaking Wednesday, Clark said she recently received her ballot in the mail and will vote in the contest. Quote, I think Jean Charest would be a fantastic prime minister. So, okay, this is it. All right, so that's the past. There is this future race. I mean, she's going to have to explain this to Liberals, but how does she plan to sell herself to Liberals as a potential leader should she go ahead and make the plunge?
Yeah, and it's interesting. This is actually the first interview she's given since the Prime Minister resigned. Right. She says she's seriously thinking about running. She certainly sounded like she was campaigning. David, a couple of policy points that came out in this. She said she would cancel what she called the Trudeau carbon tax, saying it was different than what they did provincially in British Columbia and that the plan needed to be scrapped. We also, I talked to her about how would she go about driving emissions down. She said a plan was coming in that regard. Other big issue, as you can imagine, that we talked about is Donald Trump, because of course that is going to hang over Canadian politics, the Liberal leadership race. She argues that she is best positioned to take on Donald Trump because she has so much experience in office. She also said it is important that Canada not, in her words, fold like a cheap suit in the face of Donald Trump's threats around tariffs and also becoming a 51st state, which she said, you know, that's clearly not a joke.
Okay, Catherine, that's not what I expected when you said you were interviewing Chrystia Clark today, but thanks for being us to CBC's Catherine.
Wow. So it really comes down to just a couple of people for this leadership race. You got carbon tax Carney and carbon tax Freeland. Everyone else, I mean, the bid is now, I think it's $350,000 to enter the leadership race. So maybe I'll enter for the leadership race if I can raise $350,000. That'd be kind of funny. Mistersunshinebaby for the leadership, for the leader of the Liberal Party. And they got no choice. They got no choice, right? That'd be kind of funny. And then just sabotage and go Pierre, right? No, that's just a funny little joke. I wouldn't want to do that anyways. But it really is going to come down to the only two people that seem to be actually serious about this is Freeland and carbon tax Carney. And then that random ass billionaire that popped up a couple of days ago. But I mean, he's just going to throw like pocket change money at it, what would be the equivalent of his pocket change money at it, just for the fun of it, likely. But other than that, that's kind of it. No one else really. And so I don't know who's worse when it comes to running for the leadership race. I have no idea who's worse. I've asked in my videos before, would it be Freeland or carbon tax Carney? I mean, with Freeland, we know what to expect because she's been an MP. So we know how she talks. We know kind of how she operates. At least we did under Justin Trudeau's thumb. But she's kind of predictable. But when it comes to carbon tax Carney, what's that going to look like if he's running the show? I mean, that's kind of scary because he has a different reputation than the Liberal MPs right now. He has a better reputation. I don't like the guy. Chances are you don't like the guy, right? He when it comes to like the World Economic Forum, I saw a meme, and it was like, you know how Justin Trudeau is controlled by the World Economic Forum? Mark Carney is the World Economic Forum. He's like the final boss. He's the elite guy that comes in and runs the show, how he thinks the show, and the puppet masters how the show should be run. So that's extremely terrifying when we're looking at things in the bigger picture. But let me know down in the comments who you guys think would be better to run. I mean, would it be Freeland or carbon tax Carney? I don't know. I think if Freeland runs, then Pierre can easily destroy her. I think if carbon tax Carney runs, we have our work cut out for us. And I think that it's still looking very good for Pierre, but I feel like he would poll better in a federal election than anyone else. And so that's a little scary right there. And just the way he carries himself, it's a little scary. I don't like the guy. I got weird vibes from him. But again, that's my opinion, guys. I'd love to know yours. And then here we have a video that actually breaks down some of the details of the leadership race for those that have missed it. Let's take a look.
Liberals have now announced details of their upcoming leadership race. Meanwhile, Justin Trudeau and Pierre Poilievre are speaking up about the pending tariff threats from incoming U.S. President Donald Trump.
So let's bring in CTV's Jeremy Sharon with the latest on this. Jeremy, good morning. Good to see you. Are there any new developments overnight, or can we expect any announcements today from potential Liberal leadership candidates?
Yeah, good morning. I think, no new names yet. The only two names we still have are two Liberal MPs, Chandra Arya and Frank Baylis. But now that we know more about the leadership race itself, the rules, fundraising, timelines, I think we can expect to start to see more names be announced throughout the day today, into the weekend, and in pretty short order. Some important things to note that have changed kind of overnight, and the new details that have been announced. March 9th is the first important date. That's when the Liberal Party will select its new leader. January 23rd is the second important date to keep in mind. That's the fundraising deadline. The amount that candidates will have to fundraise to move forward in this leadership race has gone up significantly since the last time the Liberal Party held the leadership race. From $75,000 the last time, now to $350,000. That's in an effort to dissuade not so serious candidates and ensure that those that are moving forward in this leadership race are serious candidates that are able to secure that kind of fundraising in such a short period of time. The other big thing that the Liberal Party has done here has changed part of its constitution. Prior to this leadership race, in order to vote in a Liberal leadership race, you did not have to be a Canadian citizen or a permanent citizen. You know, international students were able to vote. Non-permanent citizens were able to vote. That is now changing. In this leadership race, you will only be able to vote if you are a permanent citizen or a Canadian citizen. So international students will not be able to vote, really strengthening those rules in an effort to avoid any kind of foreign interference. This was an area that had been identified for potential foreign interference in the foreign interference inquiry. So some significant changes to the Liberal Party of Canada's constitution, moving ahead with some of the rules in this leadership race.
Yeah, okay, it is going to be fascinating to watch such a compressed deadline. And Jeremy Sharon, we know you'll be on top of it from Ottawa for us. Appreciate this. We'll chat soon.
It's coming up. It's coming up, folks. The deadline for the leadership bid is absolutely coming up, right? And you've had some of the Liberal MPs, like he just said, right, fall out of it, right? Because they're not going to get the funding. $350,000. That's a lot of money to raise. And I'm sure some of the people, like probably Freeland, if she can't raise all that money, she'll probably put in some of her own money. And same with carbon tax Carney, right? Non-refundable. It's just the entry fee to be able to run for the leadership race, but that's a lot of money. So I think that out of everyone we've seen, it's really going to come down to Freeland and Mark Carney. And then for those that missed it, Pierre Poilievre had this to say in his speech the other day about Canada selling oil and gas.
The question was, should oil and gas and other energy be part of our response to the Americans? The reality is putting Canadian tariffs on American energy wouldn't do very much because they buy a hell of a lot more oil and gas from us than we do from them. In fact, our entire trade surplus with the Americans is the result of oil and gas. When President Trump complains about America's trade deficit with Canada, the concern he's raising really is that Canada is selling oil and gas at a massive price discount to American refineries and LNG plants that are able to massively profit at our expense. It is a ripoff. We're ripping ourselves off with this approach. Because of fanatical and stupid environmental extremists in the Liberal government and throughout the country, we are forced to sell almost all of our energy exports to the Americans. So the answer to that is to stop being stupid and start building LNG plants, pipelines, refineries, upgraders, and other energy infrastructures so that we can sell our energy to the world without going through the Americans. That would allow us the independence and the sovereignty that we need to support our economy free from these threats. But I would remind our American friends that they benefit from our affordable, reliable energy, and the alternative is Venezuela, Iran, and other foreign dictatorships. Why would we not want to have a North American energy market that enriches us both?
Yeah. I mean, we want to have the taps on. We have a real opportunity to be one of the richest countries in the entire world. And the only way we're going to get there is if we actually use our resources to its fullest potential, to its maximum potential. And obviously, we never did that under the Liberals. We absolutely didn't even come close to it. And Pierre Poilievre seems to be saying that, hey, you know what? I think that we're finally going to get there. So I'm pretty excited about that. Let me know if you guys are also pretty excited about that. And then for those that stuck around this far into the live stream here, or into the video, whether it's a replay that you're watching, we came across this very interesting interview. Melissa Lantsman, Pierre Poilievre's right-hand man, or I guess in this case woman, just did an interview earlier today. Let's take a look at this.
Well, as questions continue to swirl about the future of our federal government and opposition parties prepare for a likely spring election, President-elect Donald Trump's tariff and annexation threats are putting perhaps a new lens on what Canadians could be thinking about at the ballot box. For opposition reaction, Deputy Leader of the Conservative Party, Melissa Lantsman, joins me live now to discuss. Good morning to you. Thank you for being here.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
So I do want to start with Trump because he was very explicit yesterday about the means he would use to annex Canada. Just how far is your party willing to go when it comes to responding? Are you, say, aligned with Premier Doug Ford's position that we should fight fire with fire?
Well, we're never going to be the 51st state. In fact, the Pierre Poilievre government will work to secure our borders, to green light and quicken energy projects for our partnership with the Americans. We are best friends with the Americans. We have helped every step of the way, and we are going to put Canadians and Canada first in all of those negotiations going forward. But right now, we've got a leadership vacuum in this country, and we don't know who's in charge.
I do want to get your thoughts on the leadership vacuum in just a moment. I'm just curious, when it comes to responding to Trump's threats, would you say pull the plug on power to the U.S. like Ford has suggested?
Look, we're going to make sure that that we put Canadians first, that we green light green energy projects so that we can get them the energy that they need, that we can secure our borders, that we can fix our immigration system. We have so many problems here in Canada, and we do fix them as Canadians. That's what we should be concerned about, and we should go into that negotiation with strength, understanding that we are never, ever going to be that 51st state and fight fire with fire.
You mentioned the leadership vacuum.
That's a scary thing, though. Fighting fire with fire. I don't know if I totally agree with that angle, but I do agree that Canada should be more self-sufficient, that Canada should be relying less on trade deals with other countries, and we should be working more towards being a self-sufficient, prosperous country. That's what I think. But I don't know if we should be fighting fire with fire per se.
Of course. Is there anything Conservatives can do in the interim to respond to Donald Trump? Because, you know, your party has a personal connection to the incoming Trump administration. Jamil Javani has touted his years-long friendship with incoming Vice President J.D. Vance. Are you leveraging that relationship at all in the interim?
Well, look, I think any opportunity that Jamil has, he takes on, and we're in constant contact with Canadians, and I know
know Jamil is in contact with his contacts there. But this is about what's happening here and the fact that the Prime Minister has put us into his own political drama, his own personal drama of a Liberal leadership race at a time when we are in crisis, at a time where the carbon tax is going up on April 1st, at a time where crime rates have gone up 50% in terms of violent crime, more than 100% in terms of gun crime. We've lost control of immigration. He's doubled that price of housing. And make no mistake about it, every single Liberal MP that supported this all the way through, supported him almost until the last day, and then didn't do it when he wasn't popular anymore.
Okay, let's talk about it. Because so much of the Conservative message has been focused around Justin Trudeau's leadership. And there are some Canadians who might say that this is now not the election that Conservatives wanted because it won't be against Justin Trudeau. What do you say to those Canadians?
Well, I say that, again, every single one of those MPs supported him all throughout. Every single person running to replace him as Prime Minister, every single leadership candidate that we're going to see supported this agenda through and through, whether it's Chrystia Freeland or Mark Carney. They all supported the carbon tax. They all voted enthusiastically on bail, on weakening bail, on weakening house arrest that made those crime rates go up. They all supported housing prices doubling. So this is more of the same. Nothing has changed in terms of the Liberal Party, and we don't see a new Liberal Party in March that we didn't see today.
Would it be fair, though, to say that this does kind of scramble the playing board a little bit in terms of your election strategy?
Well, I think it scrambles the playing board for Canadians who are there as sitting ducks at a time where we need leadership in this country, where we are in crisis. We are in a housing crisis, an immigration crisis, a cost of living crisis. We have a $62 billion deficit that whoever was the finance minister in the last week put forward to Canadians. That is the crisis the Canadians are facing, and they will remember that they should be the ones who get to decide the next Prime Minister, and not some internal Liberal Party race behind closed doors.
I don't have very much time left, but just want to turn to the carbon tax very quickly because the Bank of Canada governor has said that the carbon tax amounts for a very low percentage of inflation. It's about 0.15 percentage points of inflation.
Yeah, right.
So not necessarily the be-all and end-all of affordability here for Canadians. So, what do you say about Canadians who are worried that it won't maybe have a significant impact on their pocketbook, removing the carbon tax?
Well, of course, the former governor of the Bank of Canada would say that. It's him that put the carbon tax in his own book.
Tiff Macklem.
Oh, Tiff Macklem.
Yeah.
Well, I would say that Canadians disagree fundamentally with that. I think that 70% of Canadians, almost every single premier, if not every single premier, is against the carbon tax. And there's one thing that's for sure, is that Conservatives will axe that carbon tax to lower the cost of living, lower the cost of goods, and lower the cost of everything we buy.
Okay, I got to leave it there. Thank you so much for your time.
I mean, for crying out loud, they're trying to add 61 cents to the price of fuel. Like, that's absolutely absurd. These people are so freaking out of touch, man. They're so out of touch. The carbon tax are saying it at 1.5% to inflation. No, that's absolutely, that can't be true. Nobody thinks that. Everybody is fed up with paying more for gas. But I think we're currently paying an extra between 20 and 30 cents a liter right now per liter. Just in carbon tax, and that's just for fuel. That doesn't take into consideration the cost of goods and how much they have to mark it up because they're paying the price for fuel because of the carbon tax. Like, it's absolutely out of touch for them to say that. But hey, that's my opinion, folks. I'd love to know yours. And then we got this interview here from failed Liberal MP Anthony Housefather. He goes on to the mainstream media and complains that the Liberal Party has strayed from its values.
We are also hearing right now, CTV News confirming that Chrystia Clark is organizing heavily and will formally decide early next week whether or not to enter the race. That is from sources close to the former BC Premier. We're also hearing that Mark Carney has the support of dozens of MPs and is close to announcing his future next week. That is according to a source close to the former governor of the Bank of Canada and Bank of England. Now, Karina Gould is also seriously considering a run, according to a source close to her. So, of course, there are a lot of people that may or may not be in this, and of course, we will be following that as we go. But joining me right now to talk about the rules of the race and what he's looking for in a candidate is Montreal MP Anthony Housefather. Welcome back to Power Play, Mr. Housefather.
Thank you for having me, Mike.
Before we get to the op-ed that you co-authored with Yvonne Baker, I wanted to ask you about what we just laid out in the leadership contest. First of all, some of those that have said that they may or may not be going in. Mark Carney, Chrystia Clark, just a comment on what the field is shaping up to be so far.
I think there's going to be an extraordinarily good field with a number of options to bring our party back to the center, which is the purpose of the op-ed that Yvonne and I wrote. My goal is for the Liberal Party to represent all Canadians, whether you're center-right, center-left, or center, just the way the Chrétien Liberals and the Martin Liberals did and the way we started off in 2015. And I think that there's a number of people that are running that can bring us there.
So how do you explain where the party is now? And I say that as someone who's a member of that party and a member of that caucus who does have a hand in making sure that the party stays where you want it to be.
I think in the last few years, the party is strayed, and I certainly have been one of those arguing in caucus toward a centrist vision. And as you know, I've had numerous public debates with my party on some key issues. And I look forward to a leadership race where for the first time since 2013, we're going to have the chance to have a public debate on ideas, not just in caucus, but outside of caucus. And I believe that a number of these candidates will agree with that vision that we expressed in that op-ed, that we need to return to the center. We need to concentrate on being a party that is fiscally responsible, that improves our trade relationship, not only with the United States.
You can't possibly be saying those things and then also support something like the carbon tax in a state right now where our economy is absolutely wrecked. Like, you can't possibly say we need to get back to being fiscally responsible and serving the people when people are crunching pennies. People are crunching pennies, and their solutions is increasing taxes. That, like, how delusional, how far from reality are these people actually living? They're literally contradicting themselves in the same breath of air.
With other important key emerging trading partners, and that is a part of a growing economy.
Just before we get to the rules of the race, though, one of your colleagues, Wayne Long, from New Brunswick, did put out this, and I'll have you take a look at it. He says the carbon tax on consumers must go. The system we implemented was the right one at the time. It was meant to put more money in the pockets of middle-class people, and it did, but times have changed. He says, I will not consider supporting any candidate for Liberal leader and Prime Minister who does not agree. It's not only the right thing to do for Canadians, the only way to move our party and country forward and ensure that Pierre Poilievre and his far-right Conservative Party does not come to power. Do you support getting rid of the carbon tax as well?
So I come from a province where we don't even have the federal backstop or the carbon tax, right? Quebec has its own system. But yes, I think it's something that we would need to revisit and not have the tax in the form that it is. The price on pollution, I think, is not a bad idea. I think it's actually an important idea to price polluting our air. But I also recognize in realpolitik that whatever information has been circulating over the last number of years, most Canadians view it as a tax, do not think it's a fair tax for consumers on the consumer side. And I would also support getting rid of it.
Whoa! Hold on a second. He would support getting rid of the carbon tax? Okay, I think we're making progress here. Well, there you go.
On the rules of the race and what has been put in place, there have been many that have been concerned about this race being vulnerable to foreign interference. How concerned are you that there are still openings here in the rules for foreign states to influence who will be chosen not only as the leader of your party, but as Prime Minister on March the 9th?
Well, I think that all of caucus was very concerned. It's one of the primary issues we raised with the party leadership. And we have been advised that there will be an enormous amount of safeguards that are being put in place. We did ensure that only Canadian citizens and permanent residents can vote in the race, which is an important step. And I'm confident that the party leadership is doing the right thing to put every safeguard in place to make sure that there is not that opportunity for foreign interference.
On the field of the candidates, if you go back to 2013, in that race that chose Justin Trudeau as the leader, the fee to enter the contest was just $75,000. Candidates now have to raise $350,000, and that's in just the next 13 days. Do you think that the party is trying to narrow the field right out of the gate, and are they doing it too much?
I think this is an unusual leadership. I think this is one that is happening much faster than the ordinary leadership, and I think the party set it the amount that it thinks is right, and I really don't have any issues with the amount. If somebody is a very serious candidate, they'll be able to raise that amount, and that's sort of my perspective right now. We really have to choose a leader quickly. I think that's one of our priorities, and I think it is perfectly legitimate to narrow down the field to those who are serious enough to raise that kind of money.
Okay, we're going to leave it there. Thank you so much for this, Anthony Housefather, Liberal MP for the Montreal area. Appreciate it.
Happy New Year, Mike.
Wow, they are really throwing Trudeau under the bus. He is absolutely the scapegoat. I mean, the fact that you have Liberals right now, Liberal MPs that are saying we would consider scrapping the carbon tax right now because we realize how unaffordable everything is. I mean, that's pretty wild. I never thought that I would hear that from a Liberal MP. I mean, that's kind of interesting. Seems like they're already starting to rebrand and try to reshape themselves, and they're just basically blaming everything bad that's happened, all of their policies, on Justin Trudeau, which we all saw coming, but now that it's happening, it's kind of funny. It's absolutely very funny. And then speaking of funny here, we're going to take a look at the Saskatchewan Premier, who has this to say about Justin Trudeau.
About those efforts with Saskatchewan Premier Scott Moe. Premier, welcome back to Power Play. Thanks so much for joining us.
Well, thank you for taking the time, Mike.
Now, less than a month ago, you told my colleague Vashi Kapelos that U.S. tariffs were avoidable. President Trump has been even more forceful in recent days. So do you believe that Canada can still avoid these tariffs?
I'm not sure if we can avoid them, but we should be making every effort to do so, or at least to limit any exposure that we might have to them. And listen, in the early days, President Trump had identified border security as an issue, and we need to be working, and I would say that Canadians are working on that and communicating that to not only the incoming Trump administration, but to governors, senators, congressmen across the U.S. And so we need to work together on concerns that our largest trading partner has. We are, as premiers and our current federal government and current prime minister, despite all that's happening in Ottawa, and we're going to continue to do so.
Do you think that there's enough time? There's about 10 days until inauguration.
Yeah, no, I think this is a very serious consequences that we're not just facing as Canadians, but ultimately Americans are facing as well. The minute those tariffs go on, from Saskatchewan's perspective, the oil that we send to the U.S. is going to cost more for Americans when they buy it at the pumps. The groceries that we send, the agri-food products, ingredients that we send to the U.S. are immediately going to cost more when Americans go and purchase their groceries. The timber supplies, the uranium that we send for clean nuclear power throughout the U.S., all is going to end up costing Americans more and ultimately costing each of us across North America more, whether it be in lower commodity and sale prices or whether it be when we go to the grocery store or to the fuel pumps. And so this is a negative conversation for us to be having when it comes to working together, Canada, the U.S., on continental energy security, continental food security, and ensuring that we are working together to satisfy the demands that the people here, or the wants that the people here, wants and needs that the people in North America have.
Now, what you just said there is the message that the Prime Minister has been trying to relay to Americans, even this week. Yesterday, he was on CNN trying to relay that message. Do you think he's been effective, and do you think that other Canadian politicians have been effective in giving that message to the U.S. and really getting through, punching through to a number of the lawmakers there?
Well, I'll maybe start with what the premiers are doing. And each of the premiers are reaching out to their collective contacts, whether that be folks in the incoming Trump administration, of which many of us do have connections, whether it be governors in states across the U.S., whether it be congressmen, senators, or business folks down in the U.S. Premiers are reaching out and doing that subnational relationship building that we always do, but I would say it's very much intensified the last while, myself included. I've had many meetings with various levels of governing individuals from across the U.S. At the end of the day, it isn't going to be premiers that are going to end the conversation around tariffs. They can support our federal government in that, but we are going to need a prime minister, and I would say a prime minister with a strong mandate, to sit with President-elect Trump, who will shortly be President Trump, who does have a strong mandate, likely the strongest mandate that I've seen in recent history south of the border. And so the challenging political environment that we have nationally here in Canada is not helping us. In fact, I would say it's putting us in a very vulnerable position. The Liberal Party of Canada, and with some assistance from the New Democratic Party or the NDP Party, is putting Canadians in a very vulnerable position. And so the sooner, I would say, that we can have a prime minister with a mandate that can sit with President-elect Trump today, but very shortly President Trump, to have that very serious conversation to not only end the tariffs, but to expand on the relationship between the U.S. and Canada, and ultimately contribute to the conversation around how we continue to work together to create that continental energy security and continental food security that we've done so well at doing over the course of the last 50, 100, 150 years.
To your point on the position of the federal government, yesterday on this show, Donald Trump's former national security advisor, John Bolton, said, quote, Canada is in a difficult position. And he linked it back to Justin Trudeau's resignation. What's your assessment of our negotiation position right now as it stands?
We're in a vulnerable position when it comes to our negotiating position. We have a prime minister that is stepping away, likely a leadership race that is going to happen. We have no one with any type of a mandate from Canadians to sit down and speak on behalf of Canadians to President Trump. We need that. And so we need an election sooner rather than later in this nation, regardless, and I don't say that as a partisan statement. We need someone to speak on behalf of Canadians that has a mandate that can sit across the table from Donald Trump, President Trump, and end some of these conversations. The Premier's efforts, other Canadians' efforts can only go so far in fostering that relationship and bringing that conversation to a head. But ultimately, at the end of the day, we need someone with a mandate to be able to sit in the room with President Trump.
Just out of sheer entertainment, I would absolutely love it to see Elizabeth May sit in a room with President Trump. I would pay money to see that. That should be a pay-per-view. Put Elizabeth May there and have her listen or have her talk with Donald Trump, not to negotiate any insane trade deals. But you know what I'm saying? Like, that'd be pretty funny because she's been absolutely unhinged going, hey, Donald Trump, how about we take Washington, Oregon, and California? Like, what the hell are you talking about, May? That doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. Oh, that'd be pretty funny, though.
I want to look forward past to a point where we may be seeing these tariffs applied to Canadian imports into the United States. Last month, you also said on this program that you're against the use of export tax on commodities like potash. Is that still your position, given the very serious threat we are facing right now? And I say that with the knowledge that for the year that ended last June, Canada provided 87% of all potash imports into the United States. And a number of people are looking at that and saying, we can withhold that and use that as leverage.
I would be concerned if any desperate Canadian government started taxing our exports into the U.S. or anywhere in this world. That would be the most divisive action that I'm aware of in recent history. And that is the wrong conversation for us to be having. We need to be having a conversation, and we need someone, a prime minister with a mandate to have the conversation with President Trump to not have tariffs, to respect the USMCA agreement that we had worked very hard, and a number of premiers worked alongside Chrystia Freeland in that instance with the previous Trump administration, to ensure that we do have market access for our products. Potash isn't even the largest export for us from Saskatchewan into the U.S. We export to 160 countries around the world. Those are commodities that can flow not only to the U.S. but to other areas of the world as well. We export oil into the U.S. They add value to that oil and ultimately sell it to Americans and back to us, I suppose, in many cases. And so export taxes are and should be always a non-starter for this government or the next government. And if the federal government, and they've assured me they're not looking at export taxes, but should they look at them, that would be the most divisive conversation that Canada has ever embarked on. And it would be extremely disappointing, troubling, and problematic moving forward.
So then what kind of leverage do you think that provinces should be looking at right now in the event that tariffs are applied from the United States? Where should we hit back then?
Well, we look for them to be lifted as quickly as possible. Listen, at the end of the day, for us to win as Canadians, and I would say equally for Americans to win, the tariffs can't be on. Simply can't be on. If we are to build that strong continental economy that I would say we already have, and it's very integrated across the 49th parallel, and I tell the various stories of integration from Saskatchewan's perspective, whether it be in agriculture. We had steel tariffs that came on a number of years ago, and we were down in Washington, D.C. Discussing how integrated just that particular industry is, never mind the auto manufacturing sector, the manufacturing sector more broadly. We have to keep our eye on what the goal is here. And the goal is for no tariffs to come on. The goal is, if they do, for them to be removed as quickly as possible. And that is going to take engagement. That engagement is happening at the subnational level, and all of the premiers on our call this week had reiterated the conversations and the discussions that they're having with various political leaders throughout the U.S., myself included, likely 30 or 40 different meetings thus far, and those continue. Premiers will be down in Washington at some point in February, all of us collectively. Fostering that conversation of that non-tariff market access, building that strong continental economy conversation. But as I said, at the end of the day, we are going to need an election in Canada in order for us to have someone with an equivalent mandate to sit down with now President-elect Trump, but will be President Trump very shortly, to end this conversation around tariffs. Premiers aren't going to be able to do that part of this negotiation. We are going to need a prime minister to do it, and I would say with all of the chaos and happenings due to the Liberal Party in Canada recently, we need an election. We need it soon.
Premier of Saskatchewan, Scott Moe, thanks so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
We absolutely do need an election, and we absolutely do need it soon. It's kind of crazy because as his final act, he really screwed over our entire country one last time. I mean, Justin Trudeau is just a total piece of crap. This is probably one of the worst things that could have happened. I think we all won an election. If it wasn't for Jagmeet Singh blocking not one, not two, but 3 votes of non-confidence, we wouldn't be in this predicament. 7 days. That's the difference between had we had an election and what we have right now. Was Pierre Poilievre filed for a motion on confidence. It got blocked and denied by Jagmeet Singh. And then 7 days later, he writes on Twitter, or X, saying, I commit to vote on confidence in the new year. What a total piece of crap, man. We all wanted that closure of voting Justin Trudeau out, not seeing him resign, which, don't get me wrong, is good. I mean, it's nice to see him go, but I think we all wanted that closure of seeing us have the ability to vote him off the island instead of him doing this little shindig that he's doing. What a piece of crap. Now let's see here this final interview that we're going to take a look at. That Prime Minister pushes back against Trump tariffs in U.S. media appearances, which is kind of interesting. So Trudeau's done many American media interviews. He's done CNN. He's doing MSNBC. He hasn't done any Canadian. That's insane to me. That's like CTV and CBC interviewing Kamala Harris, but Kamala Harris not going on American channels. Like, I don't understand why Trudeau is doing the American stuff and not the Canadian stuff, but whatever. Let's take a look here.
Jeremy, 10 days until inauguration, as we sit right now, do you think that this media offensive is actually working, though?
Well, one strategy is certainly to go around Canadian media, because let's not forget that those are the first interviews he's giving since chrystia Freeland has resigned. I would have loved to see the Prime Minister giving those interviews way before, but he had on hands his trouble within his own party. So now that that's out of the way, we are seeing the Prime Minister going in the U.S., talking directly to Americans and giving them warning. Your gas, your grocery, your energy, your Harley Davidsons, your bourbon are going to be more expensive because of Donald Trump. He also warned that Canada would not do the carpet strategy. They are getting ready, and he knows that by talking directly to Americans, not only he talked to Americans, but he also talked to Donald Trump. I'm not quite sure that Donald Trump is listening to us right now talking about the tariff, but certainly his team has listened to those interviews on CNN. And I think it was about time for Justin Trudeau to get out in the media. Doug Ford has done it a lot. Although what he did was good for Canada, I think it's time for us to see who's Team Canada's captain. And that needs to be the Prime Minister, notwithstanding his status or notwithstanding how he's dealing with internal issues within his party.
Yeah, Melanie, is that a difficulty, though? Because when you consider the fact that, as Jeremy had said, who's Captain Canada here right now? Is it Doug Ford, who has been going on Fox and on other places that maybe Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has not been going, but certainly that Donald Trump does watch? So in a sense, you sort of look at this and go, well, Doug Ford is the head of the Council of the Federation right now. Who's the one that's actually the thin edge of the wedge here?
Doug Ford is Captain Canada right now. Like Prime Minister Trudeau, I understand what he's trying to do and going to American media, but he's not talking to the American media that Donald Trump listens to and cares about, and that's what the leader should be doing. And so I think it's been very helpful that Doug Ford has been going on Fox News and addressing the tariffs and addressing the trade relationship to an outlet that the president-elect actually cares about. I think that the Prime Minister no longer has a mandate. We need to have a general election. I don't think that the president-elect is going to be listening to a lame duck Prime Minister. Even when they have a new Liberal leader who will become Prime Minister, I don't think that he's going to take that very seriously until someone has a mandate, which is why it is so important that we go to a general election so that the Canadian people can elect someone to represent us to the Americans in these really important trade negotiations. And then they can, go whole hog, go on a blitz and do all of the media interviews with the American outlets, tell them who we are, tell them what we stand for, tell them about how important our trade relationship is, but do it from a position of having a really strong mandate from the people.
But Gerdeton, at this point, it doesn't look like we're getting that general election that Melanie has been calling for, Scott Moe called for, as well. Not yet. Around on the show. So is a multi-pronged approach like what we're seeing right now complementary, i.e. Doug Ford, going on Fox and Justin Trudeau potentially going on other outlets? Do they help each other at all?
Well, what we need beyond anything is a strong, clear message that the Americans need to hear. And whenever you have a bully, you need to stand up to bullies. This is a message my brother Jagmeet Singh has demonstrated in real life and also with his response to these tariffs. And I think that needs to be the resounding message that you need to show strength to bullies. And Canada, at every single level, needs to demonstrate that if there are tariffs, there needs to be retaliatory tariffs from us as well. And I think they need to demonstrate that this will be a painful process for Americans. This is going to hurt the American economy, not just the Canadian economy. And I think we're not seeing enough unity about that. We need to make sure that across the board, every federal leader needs to have the position that the NDP is championing right now, the federal stage, saying that we need to have those tariffs in response to any potential threat from America. We need to do more beyond that. Like, I think there's a lot of vision what the NDP is proposing, saying having a war rooms table with unions at the table, having a position in which all leaders are adopting this position that we need to have that tariff in response. And just ensuring that there's a far more, not just saying Team Canada, but showing Team Canada with an economic response. to any sort of threat that comes from America.
What do you think about that, Jeremy? Do you think that they are united at all? Or is it difficult, especially when you consider that there has been this sort of leak? I mean, CTV News learning earlier this week that, a number of things are on the list, ceramics, including toilets and sinks, U.S. steel, Florida orange juice, and that really is a nod to that adopted home state of Donald Trump. Do you think that that is a good operation as well? Is that a good plan to say, okay, look, we don't want to sort of reciprocate with tariffs, but if we do, here is a bit of a partial list and some of the things that we're considering, and it's not limited to that. Is that a better way to do it? Fight fire with fire, as opposed to this, and I'll use the French saying, la grande séduction, to go down there and say, well, look, you don't want this because it's actually going to cost more for you guys, and trying to help do the math for them.
Well, they tried La Grande Séduction, and it did not work. If you remember, in the fall economic statement, which can feel a way back, there was a strategy.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that they've been threatening is, Heinz ketchup. Canada's threatening to tax Americans' ketchup, bourbon, and playing cards. Maybe a couple other things. I mean, it's ridiculous. Why are we even entertaining the idea of fighting fire with fire? It's absolutely stupid. It's absurd. It shouldn't even be a thought.
For the border, and now Donald Trump is not talking anymore about the border. He's talking about the subventions for Canada, which are actually the deficit, the trade deficit, because America is buying a lot of Canadian oil. So the Grande Séduction did not work. They need to show strength, and they did it in the last NAFTA negotiation. This is exactly when Trump threatened Canada with 10% tariff. Canada retaliated with specific product, exactly like you mentioned. So this is, I agree, this is what they need to do now. At the moment, they need to answer with strength. And the reason we have this answer right now, it's because of Justin Trudeau. Justin Trudeau was so tied up within his own leadership issues that he was so busy with that, he could not turn his attention towards the real threat on the south of the border. Now that it's out of the way, I'm hoping that he's going to put all his energy and he's going to work alongside with Mélanie Joly, Dominic LeBlanc, and all the premiers of the provinces to demonstrate a united front and to offer a clear answer to Americans' threat, because Canada's sovereignty is the first priority we should, and this government should have. And this was not the first priority they had in the last couple of weeks, and he needs to turn all their attention back to that issue and leave the leadership race happen on the sidelines.
Melanie, how important is that meeting coming up on Wednesday? The Premier, Prime Minister, and I'm assuming Dominic LeBlanc will likely be there with Mélanie Joly as well. How important is it that they emerge from that as a united front?
Honestly, I don't think it's important anymore because they've tried this and it hasn't worked. I think the premiers need to keep doing what they're doing. I think they need to keep going to the United States. Look, in terms of a grand seduction, I think the Liberals did try that. They failed. I don't think they knew, how to show the right leg in this case to keep playing on this metaphor. And Doug Ford knows how to do that.
I think that the only Canadian politician that's going to meet with Americans is Premier Danielle Smith. I don't even think there's any federal politicians that are doing that. Premier Danielle Smith is the only one that's expressed her commitment to going to Trump's inauguration to basically brush shoulders with Americans that she would have trade deals with or could have trade deals with, because she's trying to protect a multi-billion-dollar trade deal between Canada, or specifically Alberta, and America through energy sectors and stuff like that. So it's just absolutely horrible. This guy jumped ship. He says he's not a quitter, and then he quits in the same breath of fucking air. And he jumped ship at one of the worst times possible. He could have done this last year. He could have done this 6 months ago, 4 months ago. Why did he choose right now? Within 30 days of Trump coming in office? I mean, what a coward. What a freaking coward, man. This is something, he's going down in the history books as the biggest piece of crap in Canada. I can't stand Trudeau. I'm glad that he's resigning, but at the same time, what a pussy. What an absolute pussy. Ladies and gentlemen, that's where we're going to end this stream here. It's a bit of a longer live stream compared to the other ones, but hey, just trying to get through all of the data and all of the news. Thanks for watching, everybody. I do want to thank everybody for watching. If you haven't yet already, I'd like to encourage you guys to hit the like button. We got about 1,100 likes. It'd be pretty sweet if we got closer to 2,000. And yeah, I want to thank, I think there was a couple of super chats, but YouTube does this weird thing where sometimes it shows them and sometimes it doesn't. I'm going to just check right now to see. Oh, there you go. Canadian Chronic with the 2 saying Convoy 2025 election now protest trending. I haven't heard anything about that. I haven't heard anything about a new convoy, but hey, I guess I'll take a look and stay tuned for an upcoming video about that. And then Jacob with the 20s saying hello from your southern neighbors. Wisconsin is happy that Trudeau is gone. He's been hurting our farmers badly. I'm glad that we'll be adding Canada as our next state so Trudeau won't hurt our farmers anymore. Manifest destiny. I mean, hopefully we're not the next state, but hopefully we can continue to have good relations and even better economic relations going into this new year, 2025. But yeah, I wouldn't hold your breath, Americans. I don't think Canada's going to be acquired that easily. But hey, that's just my opinion, and I'd love to know yours. Thanks for watching, everybody. Stay tuned, subscribe to the channel, like the live stream, like the videos, and I'll see you guys tomorrow for some more videos and maybe even another live stream. Bye for now. Enjoy your weekend.